Iubite voi donne, virtutea mea. I don't have a favorite food because I like variety.
Hello, dear friends. I hope you're all keeping well. I'm delighted to welcome my guest on today's episode of Chat with Chithra. She's a musicologist and a PhD in music from the National Music University of Bucharest, Dr. Cleopatra David. Welcome to Chat with Chithra.
Hello, I'm fine. Thank you. Just came from vacation.
Did you have a good holiday?
Well, it was a very interesting one. A lot of adventure.
Fantastic. Our association goes back to the launch of the World Music Conference. You've been a regular attendee every year, and you've been of great support, sharing and showcasing the traditional music from Romania. You have been trained in the Western classical style of music. How was your childhood? Were you greatly influenced by your parents? Was there music already in your house?
Well, in Europe, music is part of education of every person who considers herself or himself educated. If you want to be a part not only of high society, but of any normal intellectual society, you have to have music education. And I think was the motivation of my parents. Because yes, there were music in the house, they were listening classical music, but it was not only that. I grew up at country. In the communist times, parents were not raising their own children. There was no maternity vacation like it is now. And all my entire generation was raised by grandparents.
Right.
So I grew up at country and I was listening more to the radio, whatever was there, and TV. And it was a good quality in the musical programs. There were a lot of variety programs with operetta, but I was very attached to opera music. The
Right.
first I heard was Carmen by George Bizet, but also there were TV shows, serials. It was one about Bach, and I was very little when it was on TV. So I was just watching how was I think it was Gustav Leonard, the musician who was actually playing.
Right.
So I was expressing about the way he was playing the harpsichord, and it was.
Must have been an amazing experience for you, even as a child.
Yes, it was fascinating.
Right. What, in your view, is the right age to start learning or get training as an opera singer?
So the right time to start training your voice towards classical singing, opera singing, would be 16 years old.
Right.
Music high schools maybe start earlier at 14 years old, but they take care that the repertoire is not too much for the child. So they don't sing opera at 14. They sing Vacai Concone, maybe some art song, maybe some early music which fits children's voice. Because at 14 you are a child.
Yes.
Those who are pushing the voices and start with opera arias at 13, 14, like it happens in some TV shows, they are producing big damages for themselves. Because, first of all, what they do is not opera, is screaming at microphone. In opera, there is no microphone. It's only the natural resonance of the voice and the vocal technique. That's it. But the music training, if you want to be an opera singer, you still start to you still have to start very early, at 5 years old, 6 years old, but with instrument. First, you study violin or piano and music theory.
Get started off with an instrument, preferably, and then take up vocal music thereon. That is very insightful. How long do you think would be the training required?
They sing when they are children, but in the choir, the children choir. That is okay.
Right. How long do you think is this training to become a fully trained opera singer, make a public performance?
It never stops. Once you start training your voice for opera, you always have to check from time to time with another person. So we have do the music university master degree, and after that, some are professionals. Some even before master degree, they can have a contract as a soloist in a theater.
Right.
But in this time, they always have a private teacher. And sometimes they change the teacher and try to find something better and better. And we have this masterclass system where an opera star like Joyce Di Donato or like it was Elizabeth Schwarzkopf or René Fleming and other stars are teaching. They're selecting an amount of students for whom they teach. So we have this masterclass system. You go twice a year or once a year to start like this and do a little training, which might change your vision about singing and might get you a lot of help. Like I got from Aurat Warowska, the mezzo-soprano from Vienna Opera House. And later, whenever you feel like or you feel you have a problem with your voice or you want to get better, you find a teacher and you work. You can be 40 and work with someone young. It doesn't matter. Some start earlier because they graduate earlier. They have easy parts like secondary parts in some operas, or they sing early music, and which sounds nice. But it never stops. And some people reach the maturity of the voice in the 30s. The training never stops. You always have a teacher who listens to you because self-control doesn't work all the time. What we hear with the medium ear is not the reality, is not what other people hear.
True.
First of all. And second, there are always tips and tricks that you can learn to make your life easier and to make your singing better. And you don't know everything from one person. You can't learn everything from one teacher. So we have this masterclass training system where we once a year or twice a year we go to a famous opera star and we learn a few tricks, and then we practice ourselves what we learn. So it never stops.
That's interesting. Continuous practice and getting useful tips from attending workshops and getting advice from senior musicians would really help them to groom themselves as better opera singers, right?
Sometimes we can get tricks and tips from younger singers. Know things that we don't. So if we don't have ego, if we don't have much ego, and we know what we want for our profession, we go even to younger singers if we like what they do and how they sing, and we learn from them also. There is no
useful information, useful knowledge to us, then why not? Certainly. What made you take up music as your career?
Well, yes, it was my dream from childhood, and I never wanted to do anything else. Only later I started to learn different things related to music, of course, and to do also different jobs related to music, in organizing, in PR, in management. Even trying to be an agent from some conductors. I'm developing a lot in this field, but I am a musician and I will always be a musician.
That's very interesting. Romanian culture has so much to speak of.
This culture of ours, it's an ancient one, just like the Indian one. So old as the Indus Valley culture, we have this Cucuteni culture, Balada and Doina, which are two very interesting, unique styles of our folk music. And they had mythology subjects, which are pre-Christian. It was the legend of a flower, of a blue flower once, and the legend of moon and sun. So it is cosmological subject and philosophical subjects and old history. Kira Kiralina is an old legend around Danube. and Danube Delta.
Right.
It is not necessarily the life of people in the villages, because they don't, that's not their life.
Right. The folk music covers different aspects about nature, mythology, right? About the historical facts about Romania. It dates back even to the pre-Christian era.
Yes, and yes, of course, we have the love theme, of course, and the troubles in love and humoristic subjects. We have this theme also, but in normally in balada and doina, ballads and doina. Doina is not possible to be translated in any other language because it's unique in our culture.
Right.
We have these subjects,
Mm-hmm.
and the Romanian folk tradition, popular tradition, has four characteristics. First is that is anonymous. We don't know who composed the piece.
Right.
The collective, because whoever learns the song puts something in that song and then sings the song, and some other people learn it and they put also something. So there are many people who contribute to the final form of a song or ballada or doina or whatever. The third is that it is oral tradition, so it is not written tradition. Of course, in the in the last period when we started to have musicologists who collect these songs and write them down, we have written proofs, and now we use them because the oral tradition started to extinguish, since the village tradition also was disturbed by communism, and the evolution of society is not only communism. In many parts of this world, people don't live at country anymore and start to live their tradition, and they move to cities and start maybe an easier life from many points of view. And the fourth characteristic is the syncretism. Syncretism, combination of art in one product. In one cultural product, we have all the arts.
Okay. There are four important characteristics for the folk music from Romania.
Folk music is the traditional music. Byzantine music is scholar music, not traditional. The traditional music is the folk music.
Right. I know you have studied Byzantine music as part of your music curriculum in your university. I'm always so very intrigued about their very, very distinct form of singing.
The Byzantine music is very interesting. The notation is very interesting, and the organization is interesting. The folk music, the Romanian folk music, is a model, just like the Indian music, and there are many things in common between Indian music and Romanian folk music. Indian classical music, that's the funny part. The Indian classical music and doina and balada, the folk music styles. Of course, the name comes from Byzantine Empire, who has the capital in Constantinopolis, which is now Istanbul. So it was the Eastern Roman Empire, which adopted the Eastern Christian religion. First, it was only one Christian religion, and then with the separation, they had two different orientation, two different purposes, two different political orientation, actually. It was the Orthodox and Catholic. So the Byzantine music is inside the Orthodox Church, the Greek Orthodox Church, and the way it is organized in Romania, the grammar belongs to Anton Pan, and it is organized in 22 microtones, just like the Indian music with the 22 shrutis. It has lots of ornaments, and it is modal and has modulations and everything. But the most interesting thing I discover in notation, because it's completely different from anything else. So in Western music, we use the notes do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, and the score, the portative. I don't know the name in English. In Indian music, we have sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da, ni. Well, the notes in Byzantine music are ni, pa, vu, ga, di, ke, zo, ni. But the notation is not using the pitches. You don't know exactly on which pitch you are. If you just open the book and you put the finger on one sign, that's tell you anything. You don't know where you are. So you have to read from the beginning to read the end, to read the phtoras in the middle to see where you are, because the signs are intervals. Where you see a line, it's the next step. You have seconds, thirds, fourths, and so on.
Are these written music?
This is written music.
Would it be possible for someone to compose a new song?
There are composers of Byzantine music.
Composing new music as well.
Yes.
That's so fascinating. Can you sing a couple of lines in the Byzantine style?
Yes, well, I don't know how authentic it will be, but for sure it will give an idea of how this sounds. Piece is called Iubite voi, Doamne, I will love you, God. It is on the fifth voice, glasul 5, fifth voice. It is actually written down by Nicolae Lungu after Evgenie Humulescu. Evgenie Humulescu is the original composer. And I learned it on Western notes, so I don't know exactly if my intonation will be right. Iubite voi, Doamne, virtutea mea, Domnul este întărirea mea și scăparea mea și izbăvitorul meu.
Fantastic. Do you need any special training for learning this kind of music?
Opera vocal training, because we refer a lot to vocal technique, is the top of voice training. So if you have the right training, even the basis, it is a functional and healthy way of singing. You can sing absolutely anything on this planet, because it's about preserving your voice. It is about using the whole body in order to sing easier. That's it, to sing easier and to get maximum effect with minimum effort. That is classical singing. Let's not say opera. Opera is the top of the top in the way of this way of using the vocal technique. This vocal technique is enough for anything, absolutely anything, any musical genre. But if you want to sing Byzantine music, you need to train your ear first of all, and to learn to train your reading in that system. So yeah, you might have the voice, the best voice on the planet, but you still have to learn that what you're singing, and to sing the intonation, because you see you have lots of microtones, and
pretty similar to the Indian style of music, where again you have all those very, very minute intonations.
I need to train my voice about 40 minutes before I sing even 5 minutes of opera anytime. Here we have only two muscles which are very fragile. If we start high notes early in the morning without warming up,
it will be a big damage. Right. How do you see yourself as a musician?
In 10 years, I think I want to be the manager of an orchestra.
Fantastic.
I have the right training for this, and I have very big willpower. And now at my working place, Georgianescu Philharmonic, I learned the specific of every job there, every position I can fill anytime. I was forced to do that in order to survive. It was a very difficult time when I took this job. I will be the manager of an orchestra.
Fantastic. Another interesting fact I observed is your association with Indian classical music. How did this all happen?
It happened by fortune. Almost 26 years ago, I started to practice Sahaja Yoga. In the yoga practice, we have the reciting of mantras, which are actually sang. Also singing some bhajans and the complex mantras like Ganesha Tarvashir, Devi Kavacham, and so on.
Yeah.
Everybody was singing these bhajans, and I was very fond of my classical music, of the European classical music, and I started to hear them about Indian classical music. And the first time when I heard that, it was a lady, a violin player, who was playing a raga. And yes, I was impressed. So I wanted to know more about it. And when I was a student at the scientific sessions, something like your conference in Birmingham, I was presenting papers about Indian music. And it was a subject that we were not studying in university. So it was shocking for them. So later I was remarked by the professor of the National Music University in Bucharest, and I did my PhD. And the subject PhD was the influences of Indian music and Indian culture in music of 20th century composers.
Right. I mean, you did say you are very much fascinated with the Indian classical style of music. Why did you opt for Carnatic music?
Well, it was also a preference of mine and also fortune. While writing my graduation paper for National Music University in Bucharest, I started to see the difference and to read from, I think it was B.C. Deva. The Carnatic music is the classical music from the south of India, where the Muslim influence was not so strong. They kept the original ancient way of doing music and has the deepest and oldest roots. So it is the most authentic classical music in India, the Carnatic music. While in the north, it is Muslim influence, it is Persian influence. Lots of books here. This is the sector. I have, well, South Indian music.
Oh, right.
Samba Murti. I have all the volumes. Of course, I completed whatever I was learning with Padma Shri Leela Omcheri in her classes with singing and in the traditional Gurukulam style. In the library, reading for myself.
Right.
Now it goes to my heart, and I can see the difference between the two styles of music, and I'm very touched by the South Indian music. Later, when spoke with my friends who studied in India, and they studied Hindustani music, trying to exchange some information from them, and one of them said, but my guru didn't told me that. My guru didn't teach me that. My guru didn't say that. It is not written. It is, and I said it is impossible, because look at these books, and there are critics who are written note by note, and you can learn them. Of course, you have the freedom to improvise after that, but the main structure is written. Well, I don't know if they don't have such a thing in Hindustani music, but for certain, there are not so many books. So South Indian music, everything is very clear and very scientific.
Right. I do like the way how you put it. Of course, each style has its own uniqueness, its own beauty and classical aspect associated with it. You thoroughly enjoyed learning that style of music, I suppose.
Indeed.
Right. Who are your influences?
Well, there is a composer whom I adore, and I just love performing his music, and it's Mozart. He is my favorite opera composer, and this is not very common because everybody likes either Puccini, either Verdi, either bel canto, either Wagner. It is so much beauty and so much balance in that music that if you really do it rightfully, it helps you a lot in your developing. Some singers prefer bel canto. Rossini, Bellini, Donizetti. I prefer Mozart. It gives much more structure.
Right. What are the skills required to become a musicologist?
To hear very well, to be able to play an instrument, perhaps piano is the best because you have to read scores, to know a few foreign languages, to have an analytical thinking, and to be very hardworking.
Amazing.
If you know all these things and you don't have talent when you put things on paper, then everything is lost. And this is not a musical training. This is training in a certain language, in your own language.
Very true. How many languages do you speak?
Besides Romanian, I speak English, German, and French.
What is your favorite movie?
I think it's Singing in the Rain.
That's my favorite too. Favorite food?
I don't have a favorite food because I like variety. So every time I cook something different from a different region of the world, and one day I eat Indian, 3 days later I want Turkish, later I want Chinese, and later I want Romanian, and then Italian, and then Thai, and I change all the time. But I have a closet full of spices with which I can cook absolutely anything.
If you could trade lives for one day, who would it be and why?
Would be Angela Gheorghiu, the famous opera singer, Romanian-born opera singer, because I would like to be for one day inside her body while she sings and still technical tricks. Learn how she thinks when she's singing.
What is that one thing you have always wanted to do?
Opera singing, always.
What is the song that you hear most often?
Tadnishkala. Tadnishkala, I don't know if it is the composition of Pandit Subramaniam Bhaskar, but I can sing a little bit from it. Mano budya hankar chitani naham nacha shrotra jife nacha grana netre nacha vyoma bhumir natejo navayu Chidanandarupam Shivoham Shivoham Chidanandarupam Shivoham 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 Shivoham.
Amazing.
This is the standard repertoire of a Sahaja Yogi worldwide. So it doesn't matter on which corner of the world you are, you learn these hymns. This is Tadnishkala by Adi Shankaracharya.
Yeah, this is also called as Atmashtakam or Nirvanashtakam.
Yes.
So we come to the end of this very, very informative and inspiring chat. I wish you all the very best in the coming years.
Thank you. I'm very glad that we had this conversation, and I hope the next editions of your conference will be greater and greater, and will bring more light in the academic world and in the music education world.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.